Hi everyone, it's Will from the St. Johns County Library System, and if you haven't heard already, our St. John's Reads selection this year is the library book by Susan Orlean. And the cool thing about that book is it really highlights all the different sections of the library, what certain libraries do, the archives that some libraries have, and just a wide range of possibilities of types of materials you can encounter in the library. And one of the things that is really popular, and it's popular for us as well, is our cookbook section. So the New York Public Library has an archive, and in that archive they have found old cookbooks from the 19th century, if not older, and they've started actually making the recipes. So that got me thinking. I have an old cookbook that's from my Mema. Her mother-in-law gave it to her, and it's from 1928. That's when it was published. So I figured, even though we don't have this in our library system, it's in my personal library, let's try to make one of these recipes. All right, so the recipe we're going to try to make is this chocolate pudding recipe right here. And if you look at the layout, it looks relatively similar to a recipe that you'd find in today's cookbooks. But if you read closer, they get pretty sparse with the instructions. And that's where the fun begins in old cookbooks. It is definitely an adventure when you make some of these. So with a lot of these old recipes, it appears there's definitely some common knowledge about things that I'm not privy to. So we've done a little research to try to modernize some of these instructions. I tried to do this by myself, and I completely failed. I didn't even make it to the baking stage. I made it to the mixing stage, and it all fell apart. So we're going to have my wife help. She's going to take point, and I'm going to be the helper. So I'm going to do what she tells me to do. And hopefully this time we can be successful with making this chocolate pudding recipe from 1928. All right, we're going to start now.
Okay, so the first part of the ingredient says to mix the sugar and the flour together dry. So in here we're doing a cup of sugar, which we've already pre-measured for that. And then we're going to add in 3/4 cups of flour. So we just have right here standard, just all-purpose flour. So go ahead and measure that out.
First time I opened this jar, I didn't realize it was a screw top. And I was trying to yank it off for far too long.
So go ahead and do that and mix them together. So you're going to want to whisk. Okay, so while he does that, let's see what else we got here. So this is where it just kind of goes off the rails. It says warm milk, add beaten egg yolks, and all other ingredients. And then to pour into a buttered baking dish, cook in moderate oven until firm, about 20 minutes. Well, that doesn't really tell us a whole lot. So what we're going to do is we are going to take our milk, take our egg yolks, take our chocolate, and what else do we have here? And our butter, and we're going to melt them down over a pot of steaming water and get that melted down. Now, you don't want to do this in a normal saucepan because if you cook it directly over the stove, you will burn your chocolate, and we don't want to burn our chocolate. So I've already started boiling the water. It needs to be a light boil. It doesn't have to be anything too crazy. It's the steam that's going to melt the chocolate.
So while she's doing that, this recipe says you need butter the size of an egg. I'm not sure what type of egg they're referring to because obviously we know there's small eggs and you get those extra large jumbo eggs from Publix. They're huge. So
as much butter as you like.
So, I mean, it is a Southern cookbook, and more butter is better in some ways, I guess. Last time I did this, I took the egg and I put it up next to the little butter thing, and it works out. Well, this egg is bigger than the last egg I used. The last egg was about 2 tablespoons of butter, and this one's about 4 tablespoons. So there's some room there.
Okay, so another thing that this mentions is to use 2 squares of chocolate. So we just have, I have the box in my hand, sorry. We have standard just baking chocolate, and it's not really squares, it's rectangles. And you can see where we, tested that earlier. So what we're gonna do is, instead of just using 2, because we're making chocolate pudding, let's get right here, we're not using just 2 squares.
we're going off the recipe, getting crazy. So it says to use 1.5 cups of milk.
So what you can do is, you have the butter ready?
Yeah, it's in the package right now. Okay.
So we're gonna just cut this up into little tablespoons. What that's going to do is help it melt more evenly. And we need to separate our eggs. If you don't know how to separate an egg, there's like a billion different ways. One of the easiest ways is to crack it open, dump the entire egg into your hands with your fingers slightly parted, and gently shake it. The egg white will go through and the yolk will stay in your hand and the yolk will break.
So just crack it. You don't want to like go crazy and crack it. And then this one's not going to work for me. Nope, we're good.
I'm gonna go ahead and get the oven started.
So you see I'm doing this carefully. You don't want to like explode the yolk because you don't want it to mix with the white. And the reason why we're separating them is because this recipe calls for a meringue, which uses egg whites.
Cook in moderate oven until firm, about 20 minutes. So we'll do 375 because our oven's not that great. You could probably, if you have a newer oven, you can probably get away with 350. Ready?
Yep.
Okay, so we're gonna set our egg yolks to the side. We're not going to add them directly in because we do not want to cook our egg yolks and scramble them. So what we are going to do is we are going to add our 6 pieces of chocolate. So we have our chocolate in here. And now we are going to add our milk to this. We are going to add our 4 tablespoons of butter. What we're going to do is we're going to let this slowly heat up. I have it on, the water underneath is boiling. I'm boiling my bowl. And what that does is that heats up my bowl, but it doesn't allow me to burn my ingredients. So our oven's up to temp, our oven's at 375, and our butter, our milk, our chocolate all kind of mixed in. It's created this nice, creamy little chocolate mixture. I'm gonna go ahead and turn this off now that everything's melted. Take a tablespoon. You're gonna whisk that in. What that does, that heats and warms up your egg yolk without cooking it and turning it into scrambled yolk. Nice and thick, and it's actually starting to turn to a little bit of a thicker mixture. We're going to take our egg yolks and we're going to pour them into our chocolate mixture slowly as we're whisking. Now, as you see, the frothiness on top is from the milk and from the egg yolk. That's good. Just slowly go ahead and start whisking. Okay, while you whisk, we're going to incorporate this in slowly. Pour into a buttered baking dish. So we need to butter our baking.
How long do I keep whisking this for?
So it's incorporated. Is it creamy? Yes. Is it lumpy? Keep whisking. Butter it, bottom, sides. Get it mostly covered.
Rub some butter on.
Rub some butter on it. Pour this into our baking dish. Okay, so we're gonna pop this into our oven at 375.
Okay, next we get to try the meringue.
Have you ever made meringue before?
Nope.
Neither have I.
I know it needs egg whites, and according to this recipe, a teaspoon of vanilla and 4 tablespoons of sugar.
Question.
Answer.
Where are egg whites? Oh, you have the egg whites.
I have egg whites.
You have the egg whites.
They're not missing.
Okay. Some tricks that I have read about meringue because I've never actually made meringue. One, cold bowl always works better. So what we did was we just stuck this bowl in the freezer before we started. So another trick is if you are still having issues getting peaks to form, because with meringue you want nice, beautiful, stiff peaks. Cream of tartar, which we actually have on hand because we use it in a lot of our homemade cleaning supplies that we do. Okay, let's try this thing. So we need 4 tablespoons of sugar, our 2 egg yolks, or egg whites, sorry. Let me correct myself there, because apparently I don't know what I'm doing anymore. Okay.
Big difference.
That's a big difference. Don't use egg yolk.
The one with the hat goes in that hole.
Start on 1, work your way up. You won't. So now is a good time to go ahead and add our vanilla. And then while he is beating with the mixer, I'm going to slowly add in the sugar.
This is southern.
Woo, that's
sugar, and butter.
some sweetness. You're gonna notice the mixture is gonna start becoming creamy. All right. So we're finally at like meringue-ish. When I pull this out, see those beautiful little stiff peaks that are forming. Oh, they hold their shape. They're gorgeous. Look at those peaks. There you go. Boop. They hold their shape. That's how you know it's done. We got ourselves some meringue, guys. So it says, okay, so we made the meringue. It says put on top, continue cooking until done or meringue is brown. 20 minutes at 375. Would you look at that? Okay, so this is what our pudding looks like. I have 2 different oven mitts, but it's pretty much firm. It's not going anywhere. So we have our pudding. Now what we're going to do is we're going to put our meringue on top. We're just going to scoop this meringue on top of our very, very hot pudding. So, look at that. There we go.
She lies.
Okay, so now our meringue is going to go in until it says it's brown or the pudding is done. So, if you're worried your pudding's being done, but your meringue's not done, set it on broil. You'll get that nice little brown caramelization on top, and you won't have to worry about your pudding getting heat should be a little less when the meringue is put in. So we're going to drop the heat, now that I just put it in, to 350. We just don't want it to get too hot. Our meringue is nice and beautiful light brown on top. Look at that. Nice little, it looks done. It looks done. We're going to leave it. So
We're going to let it cool.
and then we're going to dig into this puppy and find out how good
Find out
it
what
is.
it tastes like. Hopefully it tastes good. If not, I apologize if you made this with us. So the instructions don't say like if it should cool, if you're supposed to eat it hot. I'm assuming yes if you baked it. So it's probably still a little hot right now because we're kind of impatient. We want to try it. So it's definitely like a consistency of like a bread pudding. So I mean, we're not chefs. I'm sure they would plate this more pretty. It's hot.
I'm not waiting for you. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That's pretty good. So it's very thick.
Mm-hmm.
The meringue adds a nice light fluffiness to it. It's almost hot.
It's very hot.
Very hot. It's only been out of the oven for 5 minutes.
So if you have like kids or grandkids who expect like a pudding from like a Jell-O box or something that's chilled,
It's definitely not like that.
they'll probably look at you a little weird. This is definitely from an older definition of pudding. It's still really good though. I think most kids would like this because it's chocolate. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you on this culinary journey of ours.